What's up, chat? Welcome back to the stream. Preview season continues apace. And also my headphones aren't working, apparently, so that's cool. So, if you send me anything and I don't see it, I apologize in advance. How's it going, everybody? We got a new article talking about 2 new characters for Warhammer 40k, those being, Intranzia Fraye and Inquisitor Kroyle. Absolute glupshido names, and I'm here for it. That is, what is the equivalent of a 40k glupshido? Is it Intranzia Fraye? Is it a Kyria Draxus? Anyway, some of these data sheets are crazy. 2 new characters for Adeptus Sororitas and Imperial Agents, respectively. And one of them seems fine, and the other one looks maybe kind of nutty. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Let's hop in. We will start by discussing Intranzia Fraye, her benevolence, because unfortunately I think she's the least exciting of the 2. That said, it's not like she is not exciting, because she's got a lot going on over here. So first of all, she's not an attachment. I was sort of expecting that this would be an alternative to Morvenval when it was first previewed, where you could attach it to Paragon Warsuits, and it would be a different leader for the Paragon Warsuits that would provide them unique effects. That is not, in fact, the case. Intranzia Fraye is a independent character, no leadership abilities. Also not lone operative, so there's a non-zero chance she does just explode because she's, I don't know, just sitting there. She does have T7, 8 wounds with a 4+ invuln and a 5+ field up pain, so it's not the hardest or the easiest thing in the world to kill. She's not going to like drop it to 1 activation in most cases. However, only toughness 7 and being a walker means that move 8 walker, so she's like Bjorn the Fell-Handed kind of, but without all of his additional defensive effects, right? 2+ armor saves and minus with a wound and all that stuff. So actually sort of maneuvering her around the battlefield in a way that gets her into a position to apply her buff and doesn't kill her is going to be a little difficult, I think. I don't know. She does kind of okay damage, though, which is kind of sweet. She comes stock with 2+ ballistic skill heavy bolters, 2 heavy flamers, and a Melta missile array, which is 2-shot strength 9. It's Melta 2 out to 12 inches. So within 12, she's hitting you for 2d6 strength 6 auto hits, 6 sustain hits, 2 damage bolter shots, and then 2d3 plus 2 damage Melta shots. So her, although it's only AP2, now I'm looking at it, which is interesting. So her ranged output is not awful if you are able to survive to get to that close in fight. In addition to that, she's also okay in melee. She's got like the Dogmata beat stick, the strength 6 AP2 2 damage, plus extra attacks by kicking you with her little funny walking chair. It's all right. Now, the big thing is that the reason that you're taking her, I don't think it's going to be her ranged attacks. No more Vinval, she is not, but it is going to be her army support effects, which include a cool little lethal hit ability. This is one that, oops, sorry, chat, one sec. This lets you choose a unit within 18 inches and gain lethal hits for all Adeptus Sororitas models in your army when targeting that thing. So I think that there is some... first of all, it's important to know, it affects until the start of your next command phase. So the lethal hits apply semi-permanently, right, for the rest of the battle round. They also apply to every attack in either player's turn. So they apply to Overwatch attacks. They apply to melee attacks. They apply to range attacks. They apply to fight phase activations inside your opponent's, over the course of your opponent's turn. So I think there's probably going to be a lot of use cases here. Now, I believe, I think is there improved critical synergy in Champions of Faith? Am I misremembering that? I know that there is lethal. We could gain sustain, but I don't think. Yeah, so it doesn't improve your critical, but it does improve your critical result. So you don't get 5+ criticals, but you do get sustained hits. So you can like wombo that in Champions of Faith to get sustain plus lethal on a non-righteous unit, which is like kind of cool. I don't think there are any 5+ critical effects, but in Hallowed Martyrs, you can source hit rerolls off of Righteous Vengeance. So you can get hit rerolls if you're below, or you just get hit rerolls normally, and then if you're below half strength, you get wound rerolls. But hopefully you're like fishing for lethal hits at that point. I guess like there's also a case to be made for like Celestian Sacrosaunts that are not running maces. So a lot of times what you'll see is like on the Sacrosant datasheet, typically people will play the mace because it's a little bit more rounded, because it does shore up their relatively low strength characteristics with a built-in lethal. The downside is that its AP characteristic is lower on the halberd. So the halberd tends to be better against 1 wounders. The mace tends to be better against 2 wounders. If you do get access to lethal hits, maybe it's worth considering the halberd, although it's still only 1 damage instead of 2. So I don't know.
Johnny Metso donated 2
it's like
Canadian
a whole thing.
through Super
So
Chat.
I don't 100% know like the best place for this, but it is also Adeptus Sororitas, so you have access to Miracle Dice. So being able to apply things like lethal hits or to like melt weapons, for example, is probably going to be helpful. I don't know if it's like necessarily the most exciting like release of all time. Oh, Johnny Marzo, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate the blood surgery thing. Yeah, I think I'm reversing course on my original thought on that. That was honestly, I don't know. This is a frustrating this is a frustrating thing. So I don't typically respond to that Discord. If you want me to like make a ruling on something, I'll typically PM me because I don't actually actively monitor the Discord. I just happen to be like in the channel when you messaged, which is the only reason that I looked in. But I think that my initial interpretation was wrong. Although I will never in a million years concede that I think it's reasonable the way that the mechanics work. Basically, the question was that there's a thing that happens with the timing of each time another thing happens, then another ability procs after that trigger. So it's when a unit's resolved its ranged attacks. There's a stratagem that procs after the unit has resolved its ranged attacks, and there's an ability that procs each time a unit has resolved its ranged attacks. But because the rules commentary specify that things happen after another effect, a trigger, always happen first, which is not what after means. That basically, because the timing isn't specified on the thing that happens each time, it would occur after the thing that happens after it. So I don't know. It's fucking dumb, chat. I was like, I don't know. While I was like sort of trying to parse through all of the rules arguments, I was like kind of crashing out a little bit. It's incredibly dumb, and I don't like it, and it makes me want to quit 40K. It's the kind of thing where it's like, why the fuck do we play this game? Literally a thing that specifies, because of rules commentary, a thing that specifies that it happens after something else, in fact, happens before it. Actually not what those rules mean. Fucking dumb, dude. Holy shit. I don't know. Hopefully 11th edition like cleans up a lot of this stuff. I don't think it will, because I think they're just going to keep a lot of their commentary from 10th edition. We won't get the same like level of rework that we did from 9th to 10th, which was like, honestly, as much as we complain, it is better than it was previously, blah, blah, blah. But like, come on, man. Literally, that thing says it happens after the other thing. Why does the commentary say it happens before it? That's insane. Fucking no, dude. Anyway, this is Intranzia Fraye. you got me crashing out again. Yeah, I don't know. She seems okay. Lethal hits like army wide against something is okay, I guess, but it's on like kind of an annoying platform that shoots a good, but realistically only within 12 inches. I wonder if there's like play with. Maybe you play this with like Bringers of Flame, just because it has a lot of like independent little melta activations, and getting like mass lethal hits on that is really good. And then it also gives her advance and shoot, so she can get to that closer distance more easily. I don't know. Yeah, you have an Armor of Contempt in there too, so she might not die. Maybe that's the way to go. But anyway, the most exciting release here is Inquisitor Kroyle, the new Imperial agent guy. He is certainly the headliner of these two. We'll also have to see how like points values look for these, because if she's not particularly expensive, she may just be good as well. Obviously, that's always a criterion that we have to judge on. And I know that Adeptus Sororitas has some pretty efficient, like weirdly keyworded characters, like Junith Eruita is like kind of a high stat mounted unit for 80 points. And so I think that there's a universe where Intranzia Fraye comes in like sub 100, and then you're like, oh, well, maybe. Despite being a vehicle, right? Because like these two data sheets are pretty similar, chat. Junith comes in at 8 wounds. She's the same wounds characteristic, lower toughness, but higher save. And instead of giving lethal hits, she gives command points, which is, I think dramatically better. So I think like this is maybe a directly comparable data sheet to Fraye here. And if that's the case, then Fraye might be good. But I hope that they don't cost her at like 140 or some points or something, and then she's just really difficult to use. It would be my concern. Anyway, yeah, we'll move on to Inquisitor Kroyle. This guy's crazy, chat. Absolutely insane. So Inquisitor Kroyle is a lone operative Imperial agent. So the big thing is that he's going to be usable in every single army in the game, basically, because everyone plays Imperium factions. And unless you play Tau. That's not true. We have a pretty broad spectrum of factions that people are playing right now. And Inquisitor Kroyle works for most of them, because he works for any of the Imperium stuff. He just eats one of your assigned agents' slots in your from Imperial agents attachments. That does mean in some cases he's going to butt heads with like any of the custodian armies that are running like Draxus plus a Foot Inquisitor or double Foot Inquisitors. If you want to take Kroyle, you do have to end up cutting some stuff. But why is he so good? So first of all, his top line profile is kind of whatever. He's T4 with a 3+4+ save, 6 wounds, OC2, which is kind of nice. OC2 is a little bit neat. He beats out a combi weapon lieutenant on an objective. Take that. However, he also has a 6-inch scout and lone operative, which is where things get exciting. So he starts the game by being a helpful utility unit. You can put him across from your expansion objective and then just scout him into it to perform actions and stuff, which is great. However, he has a series of absolutely wild fucking special abilities. The first one, and maybe I'll start with Tox Cycler, because I think it's like more interesting, but also probably less impactful. After he has shot, if he hit with his Tox Cycler, which is his rifle, his big cool like elephant gun, basically. Until the end of the battle, he adds +2 to the strength and damage characteristics of that weapon. It caps the maximum damage characteristic at 6. However, it does not cap the maximum strength characteristic. So the first time he shoots his gun, assuming that he never misses, and because he also has additional effects that proc off him hitting, you may want to like save a command reroll for that attack, because if you miss, it's really bad. If you hit the first time, He then, on his second attack, goes to Strength 8, AP 2, 4 damage. If he hits the third time, his if he hits the second time, his third attack is going to be Strength 10, AP 2, 6 damage. If he hits the third time, his fourth attack is going to be Strength 12, AP 2, 6 damage. As we are considering as well, his gun's heavy, so he does have access to hitting on ones effectively. That's important because as we're considering a lot of these datasheets, they're going to transition over to 11th edition. 11th edition doesn't have cover modifying armor penetration characteristic. So that AP2 is going to go a lot farther. So he's going to be able to stand still, get heavy to get around the new cover bonus, so he still hits on 2s, and you don't get any benefit to save. Right now, a lot of times his attack is just going to bounce because you're saving on a 3, you're saving on a 4, or something like that, and it's just a pretty reasonable chance that you make the save. However, if you don't, it sucks because he could be doing 6 damage to you. In addition to that, he's also anti-monster 2, so any of those initial attacks that are shooting into like a demon or a tyrannid, you're going to have a really bad time because he's going to wound you on 2+s regardless of whether his strength characteristic is 6 or it's 14, both of which are equally likely. And he has precision, just in case you get up to 6 damage and then your opponent accidentally gives you line of sight to a Space Marine captain, you could just one-tap that guy. This gun's nuts. It starts at being very, very minimal, but as the game goes on, and if you do not answer him, he becomes a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. Where if you basically have to command reroll his saving throws because he's just like plowing you for 6 damage every turn if you don't. Incredibly strong. Plus he's lone operative, so he's difficult to get a hand of. It's great. He also has a pistol attack, which is kind of useful because it allows him to continuously apply his buffs even if he's in melee, or if you really need the buff to be applied, he can do so with 2 attacks rather than 1 attack, which is nice, although hitting with his pistol doesn't buff his Talk Cycler. You have to shoot with the elephant gun to buff the elephant gun. The pistol doesn't have any effects like that. However, it is Strength 5 AP2 2 damage for some reason. So it's actually going to be okay at like knocking down medium infantry a little bit more often, which is cute. He also has a bunch of melee attacks, 9 in total, but they are all sort of low strength, mid AP. He has 5 strength 4 AP2 1 damage attacks from himself, and then he has extra attacks from his funny alien horsey, which is strength 5 AP 1 damage, weapon skill 4. So not quite as exciting in melee. Definitely not something to like turn your nose up at. Attacking 9 times is definitely pretty relevant, but the big thing is the gun. Now, the extra effect of the gun is on my signal fire, which is his second ability. After he's shot with any weapon, doesn't matter which one, you can select an enemy unit hit by those attacks until the end of the phase. Each time an agent of the Imperium battle line, or Imperium battle line infantry model from your army makes an attack and that targets that enemy unit, you re-roll the hit roll. Shout out to all the people who wanted less rerolls in 40k chat. We just have an Imperial agent who gives them to like vast swaths of their army on a roll of a 2+. Incredible. Truly incredible. Now, the interesting question is like where this is good. Obviously, it seems to me like the
931 donated $2 through Super Chat. The Talk Cycler isn't just 5
the
minus
best
2,
place
2.
for him is going to be obviously Agents of the Imperium. He's just going to slot into basically every Imperial Agent army forever. And there's probably interesting synergies with him outside of that. I think the ones that have been floated, Adeptus Custodes is pretty interesting because he's able to apply hit rerolls to all of your Custodian Guard units. So, like, while you're getting wound rerolls for holding objectives, they are also getting hit rerolls. Although they already hit on 2s, so you're really only rerolling 1s. And he takes the place of another Inquisitor, and he's probably more expensive, like significantly more expensive than a Foot Inquisitor. So I'm a less convinced about that. The other one that people gave him, or floated for him was, what's the word? Astra Militarum, because there's like obviously a million battle line focused builds in Astra Militarum. You could play Recon Element Guard, where you have 1 trillion battle line infantry. You can play somebody floated like Tempestus Scions, where if you play in is it Bridgehead, that gives them battle line if you have a Tempester Prime as your warlord. I think that there's probably some interesting like synergies inside there for effects that apply battle line to a model or to a specific unit keyword. So, for example, anything that gives battle line to Scions in that case. Some of them apply battle line to non-infantry units, which does mean that it doesn't like carry over. So I know like there's some of the Raven Wing detachments give battle line to your mounted units, but it doesn't count in this case, obviously. Because you're looking for battle line infantry. I think there's maybe, like in the cases we were talking about previously, there is like synergy between these two characters. If you're running like an Immolator rush list, running combat squadded battle sister squads, they can get access to hit rerolls and then also lethal hits if you're running Intranzia Fraye. Importantly, if you run the regular Battle Sister squad out of the Imperial Agents Codex, Inquisitor Kroyle does buff those. He also buffs things like Navy Breachers, which is phenomenal. His buff only applies for the remainder of the shooting phase, so he doesn't actually he doesn't actually buff like melee stuff, so subductors and other things like that aren't going to get any benefits. It also means that he doesn't have like an immense amount of synergy with something like a Bastion Task Force. I know that was like, as soon as I saw like Imperium Battle Line Infantry, I was like, a Bastion Task Force like enabler, let's go. But because Bastion Task Force is typically very good for melee infantry because it lets you advance and charge, and he only buffs your ranged attacks, you need very specific like Space Marine battle line units to get the benefit of that. I don't really know what that is. Like maybe like that funny tactical Marine squad we saw previously, like or earlier, where you run a bunch of like tactical Marines with multi-meltas in them. That could be like pretty effective. Gives you essentially an additional oath of moment, but it doesn't work on like your big Crusader squads because if you're it doesn't work on the melee attacks anyway. It does give them hit rerolls in the shooting phase, I guess, but that's not quite as exciting. So I guess like less good for like Space Marines in specific. He's also just aping their army ability, which they already have. However, I think that there's a lot of other factions that are going to go crazy with this guy. I do think like there is the chance that Astra Militarum, like big infantry rush lists become very good with him. And I also think that he is just a transformative piece to Imperial agents by themselves. Because one thing that they very rarely had is access to consistent like ranged attacks or ranged attack enablers. So a lot of times when you're hoping to get damage through, you're like you can buff with +1 to hit in Imperialis fleet against the single enemy unit, but you didn't really have any sources of hit rerolls. So a lot of times you were just rolling 3+ ballistic skill attacks and hoping for the best. But in this case, if you are running like those Imperialis fleet builds that are taking massive numbers of those Adeptus Sororitas units, he can give you hit rerolls on all of those. So, for example, let's say you have 3-ish like Sororitas units with Immolators. You suddenly get 6 Melta attacks that, if enabled by Kroyle, are full hit and wound rerolls from the Immolators themselves. Those strip cover, and then you get another 9 Melta shots from Battle Sister squads that get hit rerolls on top of that. So I think that there's like definitely some interesting builds that you could find in there as well. In addition to, like, I said it before, but like Navy Breachers already get wound rerolls, and then getting hit rerolls on top of that means that they do like actually legitimate damage. One of the things like currently is that their wound reroll is pretty good, but their hit roll is very inconsistent, and giving them any sort of buff, I think, sends them through the roof in a lot of cases. So if I was playing Imperial Agents, holy shit, I would be excited about Inquisitor Kroyle. Holy crap. If you are not playing Imperial Agents, I would be pleasantly surprised by Kroyle. I don't know necessarily if there's too many like battle line infantry builds outside of the ones that we mentioned before that care so much about rerolling hits, but at the very least, you get like a viable lone operative character with a really, really, really good gun. So it is what it is. Yeah, it doesn't work on armigers, chat. It doesn't work on armigers. It doesn't work on like battle line, like mounted, like outriders or something like that. So, wondering about pairing him with a Vindicare, so you get rerolls to hit on the Vindicare. I mean, I guess. I mean, that's good, like early game for sure. If they're both just two lone operatives sitting on the flanks, like shaking pot shots at random bullshit. I do feel like it's a lot of your resources going downrange into a single target for sure, and otherwise in other times. Grey Knight Terminators. I guess so. I could see that as well. Yeah, Adeptus Mechanicus also could be interesting. Like you can source wound rerolls for the AdMech Battleline units out of Scorpius Dune Riders. So like you could get full hit and wound rerolls, but I don't know if you're like that excited about that, to be honest. The Battleline units themselves in AdMech are not that exciting. The units that they pay off are where they want to be going for sure. Oh, chat. Is this I guess maybe not. I was like, is this good with Deathwatch kill teams? But I think most of the Deathwatch kill teams are non-battle line, right? What is a Fortis kill team? Yeah, non-battle line. All right. Good. Whew. I almost had a heart attack. It would work on Deathwatch veterans, specific or like Proteus kill teams, whatever they used to be called. They're just Deathwatch veterans now, right? The Deathwatch veterans unit gets the best from these guys, but they don't really have good shooting, so it doesn't really matter that much. Guess we could like just like go down the list, right? Like Imperium factions and what battle line units want to get buffed by them. Space Wolf, Grey Hunters. Grey Hunters actually like these guys because they get wound rerolls too. The downside is that their ranged weapons are like entirely bolt rifles, or bolt carbines. But that's kind of fun. I don't know. Is that interesting? Adeptus Custodes, obviously, they have Custodian Guard Squads, which would be great. Oh, I don't know why my thing is like showing this up in like the side. That's really weird. If I zoom in, is it better? No, it just sucks. All right, well, it is what it is. Militarum, I think, has like the most synergy, probably explicitly. Grey Knight, like, strikes, maybe? But you're not really like excited about shooting with strikes. A lot of times you don't even take ranged like weapons on them. Or ranged heavy weapons. Imperial Agents is literally the whole faction, so it's great. Space Marines is very limited. Yeah, and that's about it. So I think we basically hit all the highlights. Interesting. Decimus kill teams. Oh, the one from kill team. Those are battle line? They are. We'll just grab the data sheet real quick. Let's take a look at Decimus kill teams, chat. Did we find a way to make that piece of shit unit good? It is in Deathwatch. Okay. The Decimus kill team. Tell me all about it. Not this one. Not this one. Yay. So they are battle line keyworded. Oh, but they already get hit rerolls. Fuck. God damn it. This is really fucked, actually. I'm just gonna... I don't know what to do here, actually, chat. They get... They get Infernus Heavy Bolters for each Gravis Veteran, which is up to 2. So 2 Infernus Heavy Bolters, then Deathwatch Veterans get... Marksman Bolt Carbines, and can replace them with a Frag Cannon or Hellstorm Bolt Rifle and Grenade Launcher. The Hellstorm Bull Rifle is assault heavy lethal. Okay. So you can have 2... Oh, no. Excuse me. That's an Infernus Heavy Bolter. Poopy. One model Heavy Thunderhammer can be replaced. One model Stalker Bolt Rifle can be placed in the Plasma Incinerator. Okay, so it's like a 4-disc kill team, like direct fire shooting with the extra heavy weapons. But it's kind of anti-synergistic because you are already benefiting from hit rerolls. That datasheet was like so cursed on there. Probably just Agents Guard and Black Templars. Yeah, I think that there is an argument to be made for Adeptus Custodes. The go turn, the Sentinel Storm go turn is legit, especially because you can probably like he has like synergy with Kyria Draxus because she oftentimes will hit on 3s, so rerolls are big on her, and then she also has a sustain 2 gun, so one of her guns gets huge benefits from rerolls potentially. So being able to like plank a shot into a reasonably sized target and then just like Sentinel Storm 2 or 3 Custodian Guard squads into it and very be very consistent with your attacks, hit and wound rerolls, I think is probably pretty good. Also, just having a fast load op is pretty valuable. I agree, for sure. I agree indeed. I don't know. I think it's cool. I think there's also a benefit to, sort of just in terms of balance, to applying the effect from his gun rather than from any sort of like ability, because it does require that he has an eligible target to begin with. So he's not very good on the alpha strike because the chances that you are in range to like just alpha out whatever, like something he can see and also something the rest of your battle line infantry can see is like very, very low. But it does mean that once you're in the scrum, I think it's going to become very important.
6,931 donated $5 through Super Chat.
Did we forget about the Tox Cycler going up to 6 damage strength 12? It goes up to 6 damage strength 12 or 16, right? Although it doesn't shoot at strength 16. I think it shoots at strength 14. But no, we talked about it. We had a whole discussion about how cool that gun is. Yeah, it's strength 14, and then it pushes itself to strength 16. I guess if you Overwatch with it, right? Because it applies the strength buff after you shoot. So it starts at 6. End of turn 1, it goes to 8. End of turn 2, it goes to 10. End of turn 3, it goes to 12. End of turn 4, it goes to
through Super Chat.
14. Is that
hey,
right?
Trevi. Finally got my Drukhari army together.
Shoots at 8.
I'm going to be giving it a shot in my upcoming RTT.
Shoots at 14.
Could you take a quick look at my list?
16. So it goes to... I guess it goes to 18, but the strength 18 shot doesn't matter unless you Overwatch, which is what it is. You need to hand out awards to the strongest Kroyle. Yeah, I do like miniatures that have like their own internal like little mini game. Like Thief of Secrets is one of my favorite enhancements of all time, and I really like it. Bucket of Steel Cable, thank you for the super chat. Got your car arm together, gonna be given a shot in the upcoming RTT. Can I get a quick look at your list? Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know if I have necessarily the same breadth of experience with Drukhari armies. Oops, that's my whole Discord. Pull up the army. I don't know if I have the same breadth of experience with Drukhari armies, but I'm sure I could give you some pointers if there's anything that pops out specifically. This is gonna be cursed, probably. It is a Kabalite Cabal. Let's go! I think Kabalite Cabal is really cool. It says in your shooting phase after it has shots. Right, but the gun still gets the benefit when it shoots outside the shooting phase, right? It just doesn't apply the benefit if you shoot outside the shooting phase. So, like, you can theoretically get it to go higher than strength 16, by end of round 5. Except that it doesn't really matter because during your shooting phase, round 5, after it makes its 5th attack, it goes to strength 18. And then its 6th attack is going to be shot at that strength, which literally only matters if you have a way to shoot him out of sequence, which is Overwatch. So if you go first and shoot him the 5th time and go to strength 18, then in your opponent's bottom of 5 and he overwatches, you could shoot a strength 18 gunshot. But it hits on a 6 with no rerolls, so it's like, okay. But I don't know, it's kind of fun. It's fun. Still only 6 damage, though, to be fair. All right. Let's take a peek at old Cabalite Cabal. Or Cabalite Cartel, excuse me. So we have a guy with Leech Bite Plate, which gives you +1 save, and you can spend a pain token to regain all your wounds. That's like a points filler, I imagine. 1 Archon with Webway Ol, so that is Deep Strike and your Rapid Ingress for free, which is phenomenal. We love that. Drazar plus Lady Malice, double Cabalite Warrior Squads, triple Venom, a Chronos for pain token regeneration, Hand of the Archon, 1 Incubi unit of 10, 2 of 5, Mandrake unit ×2, Ravagers ×2, Scourges ×2 with Dark Lances. So far seems pretty good. The Hand of the Archon is interesting. What are they doing in this list? So we do have, it's all Venoms, right? Did they change Venoms to be able to embark Hand of the Archon? That was a big issue that the transport had previously. They did. So we can scout up to 2 Venoms potentially for like early game chicanery, and then potentially replace them with the Incubi if we want to. I think that's pretty neat. I do like we do get to access both lethal and sustain pretty consistently with Lady Malice and the Hand of the Archon plus the detachment ability. Sorry, chat, one moment. This is like such an underplayed detachment. I have to like remind myself what the fuck it does. Oh, you also have a strat for +1 ballistic skill, +1 AP characteristic. I don't know if that's like quite as exciting. You're still only getting. What weapons are we shooting with those? A splinter cannon, splinter pistol, splinter rifle, and stim needler. So we are just like a bunch of anti-infantry gunshots, I guess. Which I guess means that that's fine for +1 ballistic skill, +1 AP stuff. Yeah, I want to be honest, this seems like totally chill. I apologize that I can't offer any more specific advice because I don't know that much about Cabalite Cartel. However, it seems like all the synergies are there. We get a bunch of independent Cabalite Warrior Squads that we can spread around the table. All of those could be lone op, so you're very good at scoring. Plus, you have a lot of like rapid ingress threat from the Webway All guy, so you can potentially drop a big unit of Incubi out of Deep Strike and then lone op them and then go run and charge people. Yeah, I don't know. That seems good. I don't think I have any particular notes. Overwatch doesn't count. It. I don't understand what you're talking about, Chad. The guns strength characteristic is not dependent on your shooting phase. It permanently increases its stats. So if I shoot you during my turn and get +2 strength, when I overwatch you, I retain +2 strength. I don't get 2 more strength, but I'm still +2 strength. It's until the end of the battle. It's not during your shooting phase. I don't know what you're talking about. Need to know if your list was it a jank fest? No, I don't think so. I think that the core like archetype of big gun with good keywords from the detachment ability, and then you back that up with like Incubi just being like solid melee, and then you just have phenomenal utility in this detachment because a lot of your utility is lone operable. So you have utility your opponent can't shoot at. I think is like better than a lot of people give credit for. I think we did have one person, I think like X1, or maybe they 5-0'd with Cowboy Cartel, and it was like really cool. And I think that the build is very similar. You just like focus on the fact that a lot of your Cabalite units can be like really difficult to interact with. So your baseline scoring is fairly high, and then you can just like find a way to get the to get like benefit from the contract mechanic from there. What do I think will happen with WTC layouts in 11th edition? 11th edition brings standard that is more similar to what WTC wants, aka more line of sight blocking. I have no idea, Chad, honestly. I can't prognosticate. I think WTC will probably like do their best to try to do their own thing for as long as possible, but I have a sneaking suspicion that the community will sort of like move towards the more standardized format. It's very clear as well that the game is like designed and balanced around GW's terrain formats, and I would be surprised, I think, if the competitive community continued to like rally around sort of independent terrain circuits, which is honestly like one thing that I'm in favor of is more standardization within the competitive community, because right now it's like super difficult to. I mean, I get complaints all the time every time I release like an analysis video, where people are like, "Well, I don't know what terrain this is on, so like none of these results are useful to me." I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, I also don't know what terrain they're on. If we can reasonably assume all the terrain is the same, it's much easier to parse results and it's much easier to balance the game. Because right now, I think it's gonna, it looks like a lot of stuff is underpowered when in fact statistically it is fine. It's just that a lot of its results come from WTC terrain features where like they wildly adjust the balance of the game based on their terrain layouts. So I think that there'll be pushback, but I think ultimately it will probably end up moving more towards a GW thing. Anyway. Yeah. I don't know if I have much else to say here, chat. There's some pretty cool little guys over here. Are we playing Thousand Sons Defilers? We are not. We are streaming. Let me look. We are streaming Tau versus Blood Angels in about an hour is what we're doing today over on the Twitchies. That's going to be the Pod 86 Finals. In addition to that, I also have one on Sunday, which it appears that I have not put in my calendar. But I will get that one on there ASAP. So we are streaming Pod Finals both today and Sunday, which is awesome, and I'm excited. Anyway, chat. That's what we got going on. So I'm gonna go ahead and hop off, and we're gonna be live with that in a little bit here. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for Inquisitor Kroyle. I'm excited for anything that dramatically improves the balance of Imperial agents as a faction. I think that's neat. I think that's neat and sick and cool. I do think that like he has potentially transformative to that faction. The only other faction that it feels like he's like has crazy synergy with is Astra Militarum. But we'll see if he's even played, because he's like a non-Militarum character. He applies to only one enemy unit. He applies to only Battle Line, which is like not your big powerhouse like damage dealers in that faction. And you could just be playing like a Recon Sentinel, right? Like a Scout Sentinel, which does the same thing but doesn't require shooting, and it's like He gives reroll ones instead of flight rerolls, but you don't have to shoot at them, so you don't proc like reactive effects. And it works on everything, so I don't know. I guess I'm like less optimistic about him being used very heavily outside of Imperial Agents, but as Imperial Agent, he seems great. Like, absolutely phenomenal. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for hanging out with me, chats. I will be live over on Twitch very soon, just over 1 hour. So we'll see you over there. Keep it classy, folks, and cheers.